HGA came out with their long-awaited video. Let's talk about my thoughts and whether I'm going to continue to grade with HGA or not. Welcome back to another Sports Card episode. Today I want to get into HGA and ultimately whether or not I'm going to continue to grade with them, whether or not the video that they just came out with has any impact at all on what I'm doing as far as submitting cards for grading, and some of the other problems that have surfaced lately with HGA as a company. So I want to get into all of those topics and just basically give my thoughts as to how I feel about it going forward, whether I'm going to continue to grade, and some of my concerns. So first things first is the video itself. If you have not had a chance to take a look at this video, it's about 3 minutes. I'll post a link below. Go ahead and take a look. It doesn't take very long. It might freak you out a little bit. It is a little bit, I don't know what word to use. It just makes my skin crawl a little bit. I don't know why that is, but you'll definitely see some of the comments in the video and kind of get your take on it. And so anyway, with the video just kind of covers how they grade a card in terms of their AI and some of the things that they look at as far as how they break it down, the edges, the surface, overall, the total, the card itself, and how they come to the conclusion of we're going to score the card, whatever it is. They don't really give you much detail. They give you a very surface overview. From my perspective, just as a consumer, I really came away with very little. My experience, my impression was that I need to go Google these terms to find out what they are. I did that. I came away with a little bit more information, but not really anything too substantial. I did watch a couple of other YouTube content creators. I would go ahead and take a look at Sports Cards Anonymous. He does a very good video on breaking down whether it is AI or not, because HGA's big claim is that they use AI, and according to Sports Cards Anonymous definition, AI is the computer or whatever they're using is actually learning as it's grading. So there's some type of learning going on, and that's kind of what AI is. And he's saying it's not really AI. I also watched Retro Hoops Collectibles, who also puts out some good content. He's saying it is AI. So, is it or is it not? I personally don't know. At this point, I'm probably going to take HGA's word for it until I do my own research. But if what they're doing is what they say they're doing, it does seem to have some substance. I do like where it's headed, because I feel like the grade of the card is actually what they're using to grade the card is actually giving out good results, good or bad, right? If the card is not an HGA 9.5 based on their criteria, I like the criteria they're using. And if it is, if you get a pristine, an HGA 10, that is legitimately a very high quality card. So I do believe that, and that's one of my takeaways from just my experience with HGA and watching the brief video. So that's kind of as far as my impression and how I feel about HGA's grades. I feel very good about the grades that they give based on the standards that they use. And my experience has been that the grades that I've received back are about what I've expected, because everybody knows what they're sending in. They know if the card has something wrong with the edges. They know if the corner has a little bit of white, and they're just hoping and praying that they get a PSA 10. So if you send it into HGA or SGC or any other grading company and they ding you on the corner, you kind of knew that it was there. You're just kind of hoping it's a 50-50 chance and it didn't go in your favor. So with that said, there are some cards that I've sent in that I know are in very good condition, and at least as far as HGA is concerned, they've come back with good grades. That's just been my experience. So in general, what did I think of the video? I felt like the video did not give me a whole lot to go on. I don't really feel like I got a peek behind the curtain like I had hoped. I was really hoping to see more of what SGC did. And if you watch Jeff Wilson, Sports Card Investor, the CEO of SGC gave a peek behind the curtain and did a great job of showing where the card begins and where it ends, ultimately to giving Jeff his graded card at the end of the segment. So that's something what I was expecting from this, and unfortunately we didn't get it, and we're just left with, I guess there's going to be more down the road. I think that was the final takeaway. So as far as my experience though with HGA, in addition to the grades, the turnaround times have been really good in my opinion. I've done mostly 60-day orders, so it's been a while since from the time I sent them in to the time I got the cards back. And I honestly didn't track exactly the number of business days, and I know other people are doing that. But I have a rough idea. You know, if I sent them in June, it should come back in August, I think, or September, because if you consider business days, there's there's obviously weekends and holidays. And so I'd been getting the orders back in September throughout the month, I remember sending them in June. So the time frame seems about right, but I'm not one of those that tracked the exact date that they received it and then when did it come, hit my mailbox. I didn't really track it that closely, but I was happy with the turnaround time from a general standpoint. I'm just too busy to really pay that close attention. I would notice if they didn't come back, if they still weren't back, and if they didn't come back until Christmas, something like that, I would have been concerned. So as far as the turnaround times are concerned, I am happy with HGA. And like I said, I felt like I got solid grades. So one of the cards that I did get graded, I posted this in the video, this Zach Levine got a 9.5. And typically these Zach Levines do very well, even at PSA. And that's just kind of an example of, this is my expectation. I got it back and I got back about what I expected. One of the things that I've noticed is that there's mixed opinions on HGA, and I'm going to get into some of the problems that they've had. But before that, there was a survey put out by NEO, Northeast Ohio Sports Cards and Comics, and his survey asked, are you more or less likely to grade with HGA after this video drop? So please take a look at the video, and if you already grade with HGA, I'd like to know your response on that. But out of about 270 votes, 13% said they're more likely to grade with HGA after watching this video. 24% said they're less likely to grade after this video, and 64% said the video really had no impact at all. I was in that category of 64%. My plan was to request cards back from StarStock, send them into HGA. I'm really curious to see how well those StarStock A cards do in terms of the grades they get back from HGA. So I'm still moving forward with that plan. Watching the video did not change my my approach, my strategy at all. I'm still going to go forward. The only thing, that would change for at least some of the cards are the card values themselves. There were some cards that I requested back that just aren't worth grading at this point. And so that's really the only thing, and I wouldn't send them anywhere. I wouldn't send them to SGC or any other grading company because they're just not going to resell very well. So there's really no point in grading them at this particular moment. So on now talking about some of the problems that HGA has had, and I know that this has come up on many YouTube content channels, and these have just been out there. The first thing is some of the slabs that were not sealed correctly. And if any of you got a chance to see that video, you'll see that another content creator was taking a look at his order from HGA, just like I did, and noticed that he could actually crack the slab. So if I took this slab, he could actually crack it with his hands because they didn't seal it. And so that was a quality control issue. It was brought up on a video, and the CEO responded to that particular video and addressed the issue. And I personally like that. As a consumer, I like that the CEO himself got involved, acknowledged that there was an issue with quality control, and addressed it and said, hey, we're going to fix it. So at least from that standpoint, they're taking responsibility, and we'll see what happens moving forward. But I feel confident that they will at least address that issue, and hopefully we don't see any more not sealed slabs in the future. I haven't had that problem personally, so that's just something that I learned about by watching YouTube channels. I did have a warped slab, and I think I have it here. So I don't know if we're going to be able to see it on camera, but what actually happened is when I'm looking at this slab, so I'm going to try to hold it up here and see if you can see. It looks like this didn't really close very well. It's hard to explain, but it's not the right size. And it's funny because the way I found that out is I bought these stands, which are really cool. And you can see I'll just put this LaMelo ball here. So I have the LaMelo ball in a stand, and I have it displayed on my desk. And so I bought these cool little stands, tried to stick the Zach LaVine in the stand, and it was not fitting. And it's funny because one side would fit, but the other side wouldn't. So I was trying to jam it into the stand, and I actually thought the stand was the problem. I felt like they didn't make it the right width of the case. So I was like, oh, I got a defective stand. Oh, what a bummer, At least the other 4 stands were good. But then I took a closer look and I realized that the case was actually warped. It just wasn't sealed all the way correctly. It is sealed. You cannot crack it open, but they just didn't quite do it right. So unfortunately, I'm gonna have to send that back. It's not too bad, but I think it's bad enough. And maybe you guys can take a look here. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit more closely. It's like a warped slab. Here's a good one. And let's back up here. Yeah, you probably can't tell the difference. The other way I noticed too is this slab is cleaner. You could see how clear it is. And this one, you could tell they screwed it up because it's snowy. So that was another way that I could tell. So unfortunately, I've had an issue with a warped slab, and I'll have to send that back. And I'll tell you, I feel confident that they will fix the issue though. The other thing that came up was a fake auto, and I did watch a couple of videos on this. Apparently a Patrick Mahomes autograph card was graded by HGA, and the autograph was fake. Now, here's something interesting that I found out about this is that not only does HGA not authenticate an auto, but according to the websites of SGC and CSG, they do not authenticate autographs as well. So what these grading companies are doing is they're taking the card, they're grading the card, and they see there's an auto, and they're basically just looking at the ink on the auto, and they're saying, hey, this auto looks good. It looks like a 10. We're gonna give it a 10. Or maybe it's smeared, or the pen isn't quite as crisp. You see 9 autos. So they're gonna give it a 9 for that reason. But they're not actually looking at the auto itself and comparing it to a legit auto the way PSA does. They do not authenticate the auto. So I think that's important for everybody to be aware that just because you're sending in your card to get graded, the autograph is not getting authenticated by not only by HGA, but also by SGC and also by CSG, at least according to their website. So if anybody has any more knowledge on this, please let me know. But according to their websites, they do not authenticate the autograph. PSA and BGS do authenticate the autograph. I also believe that you have to request it from PSA specifically. So I have heard this as well. You could send a card to PSA, which has an auto, and they're going to grade the card, and the card could get a PSA 10, but they're not going to touch the auto. So that's a different subject for a different time, but I have heard that through a dealer that there are some PSA graded cards where the card is graded, but the auto is not graded, which to me would probably mean the auto is not authenticated either. So these are all some interesting topics, and I'm learning as I go, and I definitely would love to hear your feedback on this. So finally, the other problem I had here, this George Springer, and I went through this in another video. This is not an auto, it's a facsimile auto. And it's funny because I didn't even realize this because my brother's the one who purchased the card. And I just, took it at face value. When I saw that they graded the auto, I just assumed it was his autographed rookie card. And it wasn't until after I made the video that I realized, because I have a JD Martinez exactly like this, and the real auto, it looks like a real pen. It does not look like, you can see this is just, it's too clean, it's too crisp. It was obviously a manufactured auto. So I looked at it again, and then I looked up a George Springer and looked to see what the real auto looks like, and I said, oh, it's not an auto. Why did they grade the auto? So my feeling on that, and it'd be interesting to hear, and maybe I should reach out to HGA, why would they have graded this facsimile auto? I have a feeling that the grader just saw an auto on there, and since they don't authenticate the auto, since they're not actually looking at the autograph and trying to give it, authenticated to see if it's real, they just saw some scribbling and said, hey, there's an auto on it. It looks pretty clean. Let's give it a 10 and pass it on through. That's what I'm guessing. But again, if anyone knows any more about that, that would be interesting to hear as well. So those are some of the problems I had. I also heard about HGA grading a fake Gretzky. I didn't really look into that story. I am concerned about some of the vintage cards, though, the fakes out there anyway, regardless of HGA. So that's, again, I feel like that's a separate topic as well. In conclusion, I will continue to use HGA. I understand that there are some problems. I feel like they are making the effort to correct those, address those, and try to move forward with their business and really make a name for themselves in the game. I like the labels. I like the grades that I'm getting back. And when I say I like the grades I'm getting back, I'm not saying because they're giving me all 10s and I can resell them for $1 million. I like the legitimacy of the grades, that if the card is not a 10 or it's not a 9.5, it seems like they're able to identify that and give accurate grades. So I'm impressed with that. And I like the turnaround time. So far, so good. What I've been using HGA for are lower end cards or cards that I've requested back from Star Stock, simply because PSA is shut down. In pure economic terms, I would go with PSA because PSA has a higher resale value, and that's just the way it is. But because PSA is shut down on lower service levels, it has opened the door for a company like HGA. And I could go with SGC, I could go with CSG. But so far, I like the experience I've had with HGA, and I'm going to continue to grade with them, and we'll see where it goes. This is definitely something that we'll have to address going forward and see if they fix some of their problems and see if they maybe come out with another video that gives us a little bit more information than just 3 minutes. But we'll see how that all plays out. Thanks again for watching, and just wanted to get this video out on my thoughts on the HGA video and HGA in general. Hope you enjoy the content. If you do, please like. Thank you for everyone who subscribed. I'm planning to come out with more videos in October as I get more orders back, as I also sell stuff. I just kind of want to share what's going on and how I've been doing and some of the plays that I've been making recently. So hope you enjoy it, and I will see you on the next one.